The expectations for Nebraska this year are through the roof, and for that reason, a lot of fans are throwing out numbers. Will Dylan Raiola pass for over 4,000 yards? Who will be a 1K rusher for the Huskers? Who will be the sack leader? Among many other questions. So in today's video, I'm going to address and answer all of them. I'm going to be going over my statistic and award predictions for the Huskers this season, what Dylan Raiola's stats look like, Emmett Johnson, Jamal Banks, and so many more players. So before we dive into it, we have a jam-packed video for today. Make sure to hit that like button if you're fired up. And hey, if you're new to the channel or just a returning viewer, make sure to subscribe. This summer, I posted a video every single day about the Huskers, and if you weren't following this program in the summer, I bet you're following them this fall. So I'm going to be continuing to post a video every single day talking Husker football during the season, so please subscribe to not miss any of the action. But without further ado, let's get into it talking about Nebraska football and my individual statistic predictions for this team. Let's go to the quarterback spot because that's been the big storyline all offseason. What will Dylan Raiola's stats look like? His touchdowns, his passing yards, and most importantly, his interception count. So right off the bat, I've tried to tell fans this offseason. Honestly, hamper your expectations for Dylan Raiola. He's going to be a great quarterback, and he's going to be Nebraska's best starting quarterback likely since Tommy Armstrong, Taylor Martinez. He's going to be a very good player. But in that same thought, he's not going to be perfect. There's going to be games where he throws a pick or two. He's a true freshman quarterback. He's still learning. And for a lot of fans to come off the gates and say, oh, he's going to be perfect, he's going to be in the mix to win the Heisman, that's unfair to say. That's unfair to put those expectations on a 19-year-old kid because he's not going to be perfect. But with that being said, he is still going to be very darn good. So my prediction for Dylan Raiola, he's going to pass for about 3,100 yards in his freshman campaign. He's going to have about 28 touchdowns through the air, just a handful of touchdowns on the ground. But the big thing is I think he's going to throw about 7 interceptions. So I compared his statistics a lot to Trevor Lawrence, what Trevor Lawrence did throughout his first year in college. Now, Lawrence threw for a little bit more yards, a little bit more touchdowns just based on that Clemson offense. I think Raiola will be slightly worse compared to Trevor Lawrence because, compared to Trevor Lawrence, he had one of the best freshman campaigns we've ever seen from a quarterback. But with that being said, this is still a very good year for Raiola. That 7 INTs, listen, there's going to be a game where he throws 2 INTs, maybe 3 INTs and struggles a little bit. But for the rest of those games, he's going to be very clean. And he's going to be still a very good quarterback. I also project him to throw about 62% passing percentage, and not bad there, still room to improve. But in my opinion, this is a very modest stat line for a true freshman. I don't want to expect the world from him early on, but just know this will be enough to win you a lot of football games. I think he's going to be very good going into a sophomore campaign. So Raiola, again, I have about over 3,000 yards through the air, 28 touchdowns, and 7 INTs. Let's go to the backfield. The running backs, who do I think will lead the team in rushing yards? Well, if you've watched this channel this summer, you should know the answer. Emmett Johnson will lead the team not only in carries, but yards from the field. I think Emmett Johnson will have about 150 carries on the year, give or take, 750 yards in total, averaging about 5 yards a carry, and then expect about 5 touchdowns as well. Now, I wanted to have a little bit more yardage to his name, but the reason I did it is because I truly believe it will be a running back by committee situation. So Gabe Irving will be that second guy off the bench. 80 carries for him, about a little bit under 400 rushing yards, and then 3 touchdowns as well. He's going to, again, get some run. And then Rahmir Johnson, I don't think necessarily will have too many carries, but I have him at about 240 all-purpose yards, not only rushing the football, but catching the football as well. Again, he's going to be that third down running back for the Huskers. So those are my predictions for the running backs. Again, we're not going to have a 1K rusher this year per se, but I mean, you combine that, absolutely, it'll be over 1,000 plus. So feel good about that running back room. Let's talk about the wide receivers because this wide receiver room is stacked. The receiving leader for the Huskers this year will be Jamal Banks. Should not be too much of a surprise. I think he's going to get over 1,000 yards. I have him listed at 1,100 yards in 2024, along with 7 TDs. Listen, Jamal Banks is different. He is a end zone magnet. He's a 50-50 ball guy. And I truly believe he had better quarterback play last year. He would already have 1K receiving yards and would probably be in the NFL. So Jamal Banks, he's going to have a Trey Palmer type impact, not necessarily as good as what Trey Palmer did in 2022, but he's still going to be very, very solid. So watch out for Jamal Banks. Isaiah Nair, 600 yards, 3 touchdowns, getting modest stat line there. And then Jalen Lloyd, about 500 yards, 3 touchdowns as well for the speedster. And then last but not least, Thomas Fidone, a little bit under 400 yards, I predict. Again, I'm not going to go over the top for a tight end. That's usually what their stats look like. And then 4 touchdowns for the big man. So those are some of my wide receiver predictions. Again, guys like Malika Coleman, Ja'Cory Barney will absolutely get involved too, but I think they're probably going to have less than 300 yards on the season. All right, let's go to the defense here. And let's talk about this defensive line, specifically who I believe will be the sack leader for the Huskers. Jamari Butler, for the second year in a row, will lead the team in sacks. I have him at 11.5. Listen, buy Jamari Butler stock. This guy had 5.5 sacks last year. He's a true pass rusher, and he's improved so much throughout the offseason. He's gained about 20 pounds of weight. He's a true 3 technique. And yeah, I think he's going to have an NFL-type season. Will be drafted pretty high in the spring. Nash Hutmacher, I have him about 6.5. Ty Robinson, I'm going to bump him up to about 5 as well. I think Ty's going to have a pretty solid year, and we'll finally get to the quarterback. And then the big storyline is the guys on the bench. Cam Lenhard and Princewill Umanmielen. I have both of them getting 7 sacks for the Huskers. I feel really good about those guys. Are going to rotate in the game a lot. Princewill might as well start at Jack, and I have them both at 7. So the Huskers are going to be in contention to lead the country in sacks. This defensive line is nasty. It's going to be very good. So get hyped up about that unit. Let's talk about the tackle leaders for the Huskers for the second year in a row. I have Isaac Gifford. I have him reaching 102 officially. He will lead the team in tackles. Listen, he's just a do-it-all type of guy. That rover position is very prone to getting guys down on the field just because they move around the field so quickly. And then Buda Wright, I think, will be our second guy in the tackle department with 71. Again, he's a guy who's rotated at nickel corner, at a rover. I think he's going to play mostly linebacker this year, but expect him to get a bunch of tackles for the second year in a row. So those are my tackle leaders. Let's talk about the INT leader, because I think a lot of people are assuming Tommy Hill will lead the team in INTs again, but I have Sear Wright at 5 INTs in 7 PBUs for the Huskers. So the reasoning behind this pick for Sear Wright is simply he's the second corner, in my opinion, on the depth chart. Okay, and usually that second corner gets a lot more targets. They get a lot more jump ball opportunities, and they get a lot more interceptions. Okay, same thing happened with Tommy Hill last year. Tommy Hill was not the starter. He was the second corner on the depth chart, and they threw him the ball a lot more than they did Quentin Newsome. Okay, that's not going to be the case this year. Tommy Hill is going to be that first corner. Quarterbacks aren't throwing his weight because he's a lockdown guy. And honestly, I'd be surprised if he gets more than maybe 2-3 INTs. So they're going to throw Sear Wright's way a lot more. I don't think he's going to be better than Tommy Hill necessarily, but he's going to have a lot more opportunities to come down with picks. And for that reason, I got him at 5 in 7 PBUs. So those are my predictions for the offense and defense statistics. Let's go to the special teams real quick. Tristan Alvano will be our starting kicker, I project. I think he's going to be a little bit improved this year, but not perfect. 15 for 18, 83% from the field. Listen, that's not terrible. You'd want it to be better, but I think that's what it's going to be for Tristan Alvano. He's really going to continue to struggle with some of those easier kicks, but he's going to be just fine compared to what he was last year. So let's talk about the team as a whole here. Points per game. Last year we had about 17.5. We're going to bump that up to 29 points per game this year. Nothing crazy, nothing in the 30 plus. We know how this team is oriented, but this team, in my opinion, is very similar to Nebraska's squad in 2016. Defense oriented. You have a very good defensive line. For that reason, they had about 29 points per game. I think this unit will have 29 points per game as well. And then this defense. Last year, it had the 11th best defense in college football at 18.3 points given up per game. It's going to be even better this year, folks. 15 points per game that the Huskers give up. that's going to be a very good marker, and that should get us top 10 for sure. So those are my predictions for the statistics. Let's roll over my award predictions. Dylan Raiola will get freshman All-American honors, no doubt about it. I believe that Jamal Banks is going to be in the mix for the Biletnikoff, won't necessarily win it, but he's going to get all Big Ten honors. I think that Fedoni will probably get second team, third team, all Big Ten honors. This offensive line, we're going to have honors, because Micah Mazuka, Ben Scott, Bryce Benhart, those three, absolutely. Those guys are probably going to get all Big Ten honors along with being high NFL draft picks. And then Jamari Butler. Jamari Butler is going to be an All-American, period, in my opinion. I told you that I think he's going to have a breakout year. He's going to be a difference maker. So he's going to be an All-American in general. And then a couple other guys. Isaac Gifford will have all Big Ten honors. Again, this whole defensive line as well, just be on that all Big Ten list. So again, a lot of honors around this team. It's a very talented team. Very senior-led. All right, guys, let me know your statistic predictions for the Huskers in 2024. Maybe some award predictions in there as well. Let me know in the comment section. And hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. And as always, folks, that'll do it for me, Wilson Dittman. Go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.